Tell me a little bit about how was your directorial debut?
It was wonderful. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a director yet, but I would call myself somebody who loves people and certainly loves actors and loves great literature. And I've given myself that job all my life, which is to take something from a printed page and to breathe life into it so that it can be perceived by other people and hopefully move other people. And the piece, Women's Minyan, really has a shot at making social change. It's one of the very important women's plays that have been written within this decade. Very, very important.
I was lucky enough to talk for a few minutes with Ms. Ragen, and you said that as a woman who's an Orthodox Jew, you felt that it was universal. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Well, you know, every patriarchal society has got a similar structure. And I was once invited to go to a conference on domestic abuse, which took place in Strasbourg in 1999 from the European Union. And there I met women from Afghanistan, the Muslim Women's Association of France. I met Christian women. It was an amazing experience because all of us, wherever we were, any religious woman that was tied to a patriarchal religion, excuse me, had the same problems. And we spoke about it, we were sisters. And I really developed many close friendships with Arab women at that time that unfortunately, because of what happened in Israel afterwards, we weren't able to keep up with it. But I think that any patriarchy has the same basic structure, and with fundamentalism growing all over the world, I think this play is more important than it ever was. And it certainly isn't just for or about Jews. It's about every single woman that's caught up in a society in which the men make the rules, the men interpret the law, and the women are secondary. And it's important for people to see this play and to understand that this is going on.
Now, this was a piece about a true story. It was about a real-life woman in Jerusalem. Can you tell us a little bit about the real Hannah Cashman?
Well, the real Hannah Cashman was, as I say in the play, a very important rabbi's wife, and she was considered a pillar of the community. She absolutely was a leader, and she was given a lot of women to advise. Anybody who had domestic problems, the rabbis would send to her. So the irony of her having to hide this life from the powers that be was very ironic. And I came across her when she went on television in order to save her friend, because the Modesty Patrol had been sent to beat her up and bring her back forcibly to her husband. And instead they found her friend and they put her friend into the hospital. And she was brave enough to go on national TV in Israel to plead for those responsible to be arrested. And I thought her courage was incredible, and I wrote her a letter, and she responded by saying she would like to meet, and I was very happy to meet with her. And she actually wanted me to write a book about this, and I said to her, honey, I already wrote that book. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I got a phone call from the National Theater, and it was just serendipitous that he wanted me to write an original play, and I said to myself, you know what? This could make a great play. I'll just imagine her going home to all the women in her family and explaining what happened, and her to explain to them and to ask them to judge her and to get some justice from the women. And I thought that would be like, 12 angry men. This would be 10 very angry women. So the real story behind it is almost exactly what you see, except for the fact that there is no happy ending.
And how different was it writing a play than a novel?
Oh my gosh, there's no comparison. When you write a play, well, let me start with this. When you write a novel, you're your own boss. You sit behind your computer, no one tells you what to do, no one tells you that this character can't say this or can say this. You're your own boss. The only person you have to please is your editor. When you write a play, you're marrying a few people. You're marrying your director, you're marrying every single one of your actors, and every single one of them is a participant in the creative production of that work of art. And their input is absolutely imperative to turning it into what you want it to be. And you can't possibly do it on your own. This is a collaborative effort.
Completely.
Absolutely
really
true.
Is. I think the wonderful thing about making my directorial debut is that I was smart enough to listen. I knew it was my first time out, so I elicited and asked people in whom I had trust what their opinions were, and I gleaned ideas from them. We also had a fabulous company manager. I wanted stools, then he said, what about stools that swivel? I said, that's right, what about stools that swivel with a back? And so this got born, this small idea which made all the difference, because other readings are done on just black stools or just regular old chairs. Right. And the ability of our producers to put in the extra revenue it took to buy 12 stools. A lot of people don't do that, or give a beautiful reception, or get the author in, the playwright in at the reading to do a Q&A. Believe me, I know, it's almost unheard of. So these were very magical moments, each one being a fulcrum in the progression of this piece. And it was an honor, it's an honor to be part of this spiral, of this magic. I don't know about God. I'll tell you how far I get with God. May the force be with you. So my daughter, who was an MIT graduate in physics, they've already started to prove at MIT that there's an alternate reality, what I call the fourth dimension, that's completely ordered. I believe as an evolutionist that our brains as Homo sapiens are not yet evolved enough to perceive the order of this fourth dimension. So we call it Hashem, Buddha, Jesus, synchronicity, coincidence, karma. We get snatches of it. I don't think there was any mistake whatsoever that Naomi met this woman and got this call from National Theater. It's just too good to be true.
Well, as a woman an Orthodox woman who does believe in God, I have to say my theory is a lot simpler than your theory. There is a God in heaven, and he arranges everything. And that's where I go from there. And I believe in that.
The trouble is not with the theory, but that the men take that as if it's their God-given right to be that, perhaps that representative on earth, that as if it's a masculine force. It's a neutered force.
We women have to make sure they don't do that.
Yeah.
And also God helps us against them. That much I have to say. So they shouldn't be so sure they're going to win.
Very strange, isn't it? It's like the Pleistocene age. I went to track the mountain gorillas in Rwanda and Uganda, and there's no question there's something called the alpha male. Really? But the alpha male has many wives, much like Yankala Scheinhoff. And they all pick his nits, they all take care of him, feed him food, pick his nits, and take naps with him and the children.
Wonderful.
So it's very interesting to me. I would love to talk to you one day about the common strains. What are the common strains in patriarchy? How would you define patriarchy as it influences fundamentalist Muslims, Christians, Jews?
Women exist to serve men. That's the #1 rule of every patriarchy.
Wow.
That's their function in life, to serve men. And the #2 thing is that Lord on high has directly passed down his word to men. And men are the ones that have to pass it down to women. Women are not allowed to be equal in getting the word of God. They have to get it through a filter, and the filter is the man, and God says whatever the men say. That's #2 in the patriarchy. And #3 is what we've seen on stage, and that is in every family that exists within the patriarchy, the women have to cover up. If there's any kind of problem with the man in the family, he remains pristine, as white as snow. She's the one that takes the stains. She's the one that has to, at all costs, maintain the family unit under the authority of the man. And it doesn't matter if she's a Muslim girl and her brother rapes her, well, you have to take her out and kill her. Because you can't have, the boy in the family pay for these crimes. It's always the woman that has to take the crime on herself.
It's interesting that in the death of Osama bin Laden, killed incidentally on the same day that Hitler took his life, May the 1st,
really?
1940.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
1944
Didn't know that.
was when Hitler killed, 1945, Hitler killed himself or was shot in the head and burned. And then Osama bin Laden, there is a video of him taking one of his wives as a shield, from what I understand.
I heard about that.
The woman took the bullet, wanted the woman to take the bullet.
One last question. Can you tell me a little bit about the director-playwright relationship on this show?
Well, I knew that I didn't know how to direct a play, and I was thrilled that I got Tovah as my director, and I was honored that she decided to, for at least a few days, stop being the star that she is and decide to be a director, because she is such a talented director. And I don't think there's anybody else who in such a short period of time could have felt this play. And you know, Tovah created notes for the actresses to understand the play, and I read this and I was blown away at how well she understood all the nuances in this play. And I think either it's because of her Jewish heart, or simply because she's been in the theater for such a long time that she understands what it takes to make a great play and how to direct actors to do the most with whatever material they have. And so I was, you know, absolutely delighted that I was in such great hands, and very grateful to participate in this with her.
And I was delighted to be chosen. You know, my husband, who's quite brilliant and wonderful, has been asking me to direct for many, many years. I think ever since I was a soccer coach of the 5-year-old girls in New York City. But anyway, he asked me to direct, and I simply love it. And as we go forward with this project, and I know this project will go forward because there's a moral and social imperative about this project, and it will not be denied. The piece of work will take on its own momentum, that I will start to get visions of how to do the play. I had this vision recently of the play being surrounded by the words of the law, as if the walls of, we don't even go realistically in the first place. We go to the law and the word of man. We take John Stanisi yelling from on high, and we put that somehow in a set. I'm not sure how, but it's impinging on them. It's their, not just their cupola, it's their igloo, it's their cell in their prison.